A new study from the Committee to Unleash Prosperity says the Biden administration's war on oil and gas has cost America $250 billion in lost output. Well, joining us now to discuss is former White House economic advisor Steve Moore. Steve, great to see you. Happy Friday.
Hi, Jen. Good to see you, too. Happy Friday.
Your study also looks at the conflict with the Biden administration itself, where, he's shutting down oil and gas production as part of his green energy strategy, yet also telling the American people he's doing all he can to reduce gas prices, which we know you can't do both, right? There is something that's got to give in this. So tell us more about the study that you helped to co-author.
Well, I think everyone remembers that one of Joe Biden's first acts of office when he came into the presidency was to shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. And ever since that day, it's been one assault after another against the oil and gas industry, an industry that he's actually said he wants to destroy. And just a few weeks ago, Jan, he took over 1 million prime acres of oil and gas lands in Alaska offline. Those things are making it much, much harder to produce oil and gas here in the United States. And we estimate in the study that we could be producing about 3 million more barrels a day, 3 million a day, if we could simply get back to the Trump policies of allowing drilling and encouraging it. And that would be not just good for our economy, Jan, but it'd also be good for our national security, because then we wouldn't be reliant on countries like Iran and China and Russia to get our energy.
Right, and energy prices have risen around the world. So the question, too, is why isn't the U.S. filling that gap to produce more, given the financial incentive for this as well?
Well, you're exactly right. That's the question to ask. We are producing about 13 million barrels a day today, which is good, but we should be producing about 16 or 17 million barrels a day. We should be the #1 producer. And so what we've done is empowered OPEC to be able to control the oil price as they did back in the 1970s. And, you were just showing on the screen, $3.79 a gallon. Don't forget, when we had Trump's energy policies in place, people were paying $2.49 a gallon. So that's like a $1.30 a gallon tax that people are paying because of this crazy war on American energy. And I guarantee you, I just saw you reported that Trump was in Washington yesterday. I spent a little time with him, and he said that one of his top priorities, Jan, would be to get back to producing our oil and gas and coal to bring energy prices down and to make the United States less vulnerable to our enemies.
Did you get a chance to talk to him?
A little bit. I mean, he was over at the Business Roundtable event with about 75 major CEOs, including Jamie Dimon, including Tim Cook of Apple. And he talked about the economy and how he was going to rebuild it and how he was going to make sure that we have policies that are pro-worker and pro-business. And I have to say it went over very well in that room.
Because I know two of his main topics right now is not just reversing energy policy, but also reversing what we're seeing happening at the border. So I know he's going to try to reverse
that's for sure. Well, he did talk about that, Jan, for sure. We have now 10 million illegal immigrants who've come in since Biden was president. And we're going to get that, I guarantee we're going to get that border sealed again. I mean, remember, we almost had it pretty much sealed when Trump left office, and then Biden had it. Anybody can come in, wants to come in, and now it's chaos at the border. And I'm very pro-immigration. I think we need immigrants, but this is just out of hand with respect to we don't know who's coming. And Trump made that point. He said, look, we need the immigrants who want to come here and contribute, but you got to come the right way. We have to have a legal system, not an illegal system.
The vetting process. I want to go back to what you were saying about our energy dependence, especially on Middle Eastern countries right now, because it also comes as the U.S. dollar's role as the currency used for crude oil transactions on the world market was allowed to expire, because we've had the petrodollar agreement with Saudi Arabia for 50 years now. So what does this mean for us?
Well, we want to make sure that if we're the #1 oil producer, we don't have to be dependent on countries like Saudi Arabia and countries like Iran and countries like Russia. So, and by the way, the dollar is still the world reserve currency and always will be. But the fact is that when we're not producing enough oil and gas, that is, by the way, it's not as if the world's using less oil and gas. They're using more of it. It just means when we reduce our output, the oil and gas has to come from somewhere else. And Russia is loving this. The Saudis are loving this. OPEC. By the way, we never really talked about OPEC when Trump was president because OPEC didn't have any power. We've empowered these enemies. And I really believe that, for example, those tanks you were showing those Russian tanks in Ukraine. I don't think that Putin would have had the money to go into Ukraine in the first place if we continue to produce more oil and gas here at home. And we got a lot of it. We have more oil and gas than any other country in the world.
That's a very good point there. I want to ask you very quickly, you know, the Fed rate decision released. Obviously, rates are going to be held steady. So do you really believe when Jerome Powell says he expects one interest rate cut by the end of the year?
It could be. What I don't believe is that we've conquered inflation. I mean, I think these people in Washington have to go to the grocery store. I think they have to go to the gas pump. I don't know about you, Gian, but I'm not seeing much of a decline in inflation. I'm seeing, I mean, my gosh, my son and I got a Big Mac meal the other day. It's like $22 for the two of us for a Big Mac meal. It used to be like $10. So I think inflation is still a big problem, and I think it's going to be the #1 issue in this election.
Yeah, speaking of which, I got a Mother's Day card that I spent $10 on at the grocery store, and I said, I'm not doing that again. So I went to the dollar store yesterday to get a Father's Day card, and it was packed. I mean, people are bargain shopping out there right now. They truly are. I've never seen the dollar store that packed before. I love it.
And by the way, dollar stores are now like $2 stores because they can't even afford to sell stuff.
It's $1.25 now. Steve, always great to see you. Happy Father's Day, by the way. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, and happy belated Mother's Day to you.
Thank you. Have a good one.